Well, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And my team and I have been talking a lot about the theme of Mental Health Awareness Month this year, nature, right? Just being out in nature, how healing, how awesome that can be. And I had the brilliant idea, as the sun is going down, of course, that I would do my podcast sitting outside in my backyard in nature. So I think I've officially lost my mind. But I wanted to really expose the authenticity of our show and our approach to putting out real content. I just wanted to step outside of the box. It's a beautiful day here in Arizona, and I've got a couple of things I want to get off of my chest during this Mental Health Awareness Month. I am Brandon T. Bailey. This is Controversy. Well, welcome to the first episode of Controversy Podcast, filmed outside. You can hear all of the wonderful nature noises, but I'm excited. Today's episode is about, yes, a really classic song for me. But it's about really that point you get what Adam Farmer talked about in his episode, where you look your trauma in the face and you make a decision. Am I going to go this way? Am I going to go that way? And, my goal is not to oversimplify that decision. But I think that anybody who goes through healing has to come to that point. For the sake of this conversation, let's call it the tipping point. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called The Tipping Point. Of course, my lighting, there it is. I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes for those of you who have not had an opportunity to read this. I read this book a few years ago. And in it, he refers to the tipping point as the magic moment when an idea, a trend, or social behavior crosses the threshold. He calls it that exact moment where it tips, right? Where it goes from just being a thing to becoming a big deal. In the book, he talks mostly about success stories, right? People who start businesses and they're grinding, and then there's this moment where it explodes and everybody knows about it. As artists or as musicians, a lot of them have those moments where they're just grinding it out, nobody really knows who they are, and then boom, there's this tipping point. Unfortunately, the tipping point can also happen in reverse, right? There can be times in your life where things tip backwards, and instead of things becoming incredibly good, they can become incredibly bad. For the sake of this conversation, for the sake of this healing journey, I want you to consider the tipping point as crossroad, that time where you look all of the trouble, all of the trauma, all of the hurt in the face and make a decision about where you're going to go. Here's my story. I was working in special education, in elementary special education. By trade, by training, I was neither an elementary teacher nor a special ed teacher. I came into both of those experiences. It was just part of my journey, right? But I found myself working in a charter school, and I am going to be careful not to name the school. But it was one of the most challenging years I had ever experienced in education. If this year was my first year in education, I would have picked another career and never came back. The challenges began with staffing. It was with students. It was with parents. Those of you who are on my timeline who are educators, you know the academic year can have a lot of ups and downs. It can have some challenging moments. But I want you to take like a normal, stressful academic year and multiply it by 10. I had been interviewing for jobs. Now, I had a contract that said that if I left early, I had to pay a penalty. I'm finding that those kinds of contracts are actually becoming commonplace these days, but this is the first time I had seen one. And so I decided it didn't matter. Like I was breaking this contract. I was leaving as soon as I found an opening. And ironically, at this time, I got my resume done. I was leaving education. I was going into corporate training. I was working with some coaches, and I was getting callbacks. I was getting interviews. I was getting to second and third rounds. Like everything said, this is gonna happen. Like before the end of the year, you're gonna be out of this. Your situation's gonna change. And I mean, I'm drowning in stress and frustration and anger and irritation, but I keep holding on to this glimmer of hope, this glimmer of light. And time after time, job after job kept saying no, 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 no. And I think, guys, I was headed into spring break. I'm not exactly sure at this particular time where we were. But I was close to one of those long 2-week breaks. And I was just trying to push through it. And I was on my way to work, driving to work. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not a morning person. But I got my coffee, I got on my gospel, and I am just trying to find just enough Holy Spirit to make it through the day. I'm driving to work, and I'm not feeling myself. Everything is just like, not good. But the closer I got to the building, literally, I was when I turned onto the street where the school is, I felt my chest starting to tighten. The closer I got to the school, just literally could feel in my body all of the stress. My chest was tightening. I've never been told whether or not it was a panic attack. I don't know. But the point was the fear that happened in that moment, right, was enough for me to say, enough trying to do this on your own, enough trying to figure this out. It's time to get some help. It was after that very, very stressful, hard drive to work that I made a decision to start looking for a therapist. I had been praying, y'all, and I talked at this point, the other episodes, I have talked about how my prayer life, how my faith had struggled, leaning into some of these difficult times in my life and in my career. And in this moment, I had tried spiritually, naturally, everything I knew how to do. I was trying meditation, I was trying yoga, I was working out, I was doing it all. I was trying to pray, and nothing could ease that stress that I experienced that day. I consider that drive to work the tipping point. The point where I said enough is enough. The point where I said I am not going to allow these things to take me out. The point where I said my silence is not getting me the support that I need to make it through this stress. The seclusion that had become second nature to me when going through was simply not going to sustain me through the struggle. And I made a decision that day. I made a commitment, and I followed it up with action to go and seek out help. Since I found a therapist in that time, I have been actively working through and talking through my own challenges and my own stress. And I believe that no matter where you are on that journey, you have to get to the tipping point. You have to get to the point where you want peace bad enough to do anything to get it. Because most people facing stress and anxiety have tried different things. I mean, it's crazy to think that, something I'm saying is new. Like, we've all tried different things. But oftentimes we fall back on what we've always done, right? So I am someone who grew up in church. When I was feeling down or feeling out, I took everything to the church. And in this environment, that wasn't enough, right? I needed more. And whatever it is that you have tried, right? Some people go and grab a drink, but at some point that isn't enough. Some people go and do other things, right? They may actually talk to somebody. And at some point that's not enough, right? But there has to be a tipping point. A point where you decide healing is more important to me. Self-care is more important to me than anything else. I don't know about you, but I always believed that purpose and our path to purpose was always built on positive things. That things that you loved doing were a part of your purpose. Things that you were naturally good at were a part of your purpose. And in a lot of ways, that belief is true. But in a lot of ways, that belief is flawed. Sometimes, purpose is found in pain. When I was a student in the Leadership Academy, this was the most eye-opening part of my journey. And we discussed a very popular book called The Purpose-Driven Life by Pastor Rick Warren. In the book, he talks about the 5 global Goliaths, right? And his presentation is that a lot of times people find problems to solve, either in their life or in the world. And in finding those problems that they are uniquely designed, gifted to solve, they find purpose. And the 5 global Goliaths, according to Pastor Rick Warren, are spiritual emptiness, egocentric leadership, extreme poverty, pandemic disease, and illiteracy or poor education. Now, you can fit a lot of subcategories into those 5 areas, but basically he says that these are the 5 core areas, these are the 5 core problems in the world that people find purpose in trying to solve in some way, shape, form, or fashion. The Controversy Project says, my pain, his purpose. Because all of the pain that I have discussed in all of the previous episodes, all of the pain that a lot of the people in the Facebook group have shared, all of the pain that guests on the podcast have talked about, all of that has led them, has prepared them, has positioned them for a place of purpose. And it is incredibly important because pain can sometimes paralyze purpose. And I talked about how my pain kept me from taking steps, kept me from doing things that I felt God had uniquely gifted me to do, kept me from wanting to try, kept me from wanting to sing, kept me from wanting to sell, kept me from wanting to talk about things that I was passionate about. All of these things that were a part that I could explicitly, in great detail, explain to you were a part of my purpose. Those things were hard for me to do because the pain felt so big that all of this stuff felt very, very small. But there comes a time, going back to the tipping point, where if you do not have a greater purpose, something bigger than you to fight for, to push for, to continue to get up and move for, it is much easier to simply give up. It is much easier to give way to the pain. It is much easier to cower, to fall away, to hide, to commit suicide, to take your own life, to decide that it's not worth it. And I think it is so important for everyone to find something bigger than them to work towards, to work for. I think it's so important that we have a clear sense of what we are uniquely purposed to do. Here's the key. It's not about feeling like you've accomplished a thing. It's about knowing that you're on the path. We hear the cliche, success is a journey and not a destination, all the time. And what that means to different people can be different things. But I think it's really important to wrap your mind around this. If success is a journey, right, then it's about the journey. It's about the process. If it is a destination, then it's arriving at this thing. One of the things I had to fight with in therapy is this sense that it will be better when. Life will be better when. I will be happy when, right? And what those of us who have dealt with that know is that when, the goalpost keeps moving, right? No matter what goal you set for that when I get a job, right? Then you get a job and you're unhappy again, right? When I get a raise, you get a raise and then you're unhappy again, right? And so the goalpost continues to move. And so as long as your happiness is predicated upon a thing in the future, and as long as your pain is connected to something in the past, you will never be able to be at peace in the present. And so my fight has been finding purpose in the path. Every step is a part of the purpose. Every failure, every misstep, every success, every celebration, it's all part of the process. If that is true, then the only thing that matters is purpose. Because if you have one and you are pursuing it actively, then you are already successful. Because being on that path is what's important. A lot of times the vision of our purpose can change. For me, what I thought the end game was has changed so many times in so many different ways. But one thing remains very, very consistent. A few things remain very consistent. It is really based on my three values, right? Passion. I've always been passionate about things I'm involved in, which is why I go too hard in things I shouldn't be in. You know what I mean? I'm just an all or nothing passionate kind of person. And so for me, it is sometimes difficult, right, to say no, but I have had to learn, right, how to focus my passions in an area that is very, very specific. And so the other one for me is creativity, right? One of the reasons I chose to do this project is to take creative ways to talk about difficult content. I know my lighting is a little crazy, y'all. This is me trying to do something new outside. But the last thing is significance. I have always desired to help other people to feel like the work that I was doing was greater than me, was bigger than me. And so all of those things together create an environment for me that said, yes, son. Did you hear me? I did not hear you. See, you're recording live, and my son comes outside to talk to me. But it all created an environment where all of the pain that I had experienced, when I came back to God, when I came back to my spiritual foundation, I found purpose in sharing the story and sharing the journey. Because I recognized that there were other people who had experienced what I experienced and could benefit from hearing parts of how I processed through that pain. And so my encouragement to those of you out there listening to this podcast right now or watching this video is know that there can be purpose in your pain. And your only responsibility is to decide what that purpose is and pursue it. Because your success is not once you've gotten there. Your success is once you've started on the path. While this seemed like a good idea when I started on the journey, the sun has gone down, the bugs have come out, and it is time for me to go inside. But here's the inspiration. I don't know if you all know this, but at my dad's funeral, I sang "I'm Going Away" by Walter Hawkins. And I sang that song because back in the Pisgah days, my dad, the young adult choir sang the song, and my dad, who was not a singer, right? He was the lead. He was chosen to lead that song, and for reasons unknown to me at this point, he could not make it through the song. I don't know if it was fear, emotion. I don't remember. I was young. But I was a little boy, and I had gone to all the rehearsals with him. And so I knew the song. And so when he could not sing it, they looked at me. I was like, I was like, I can do it. And I as a little boy, led this song in his place. It probably sounded terrible, but everybody, everybody was like, "Oh, the baby sang the song." I've remembered, obviously, that story, but I've always remembered the song because of the story. Um, and honestly, it was always an important song to him. But I remember singing the song and ending it with the vamp of Vashawn Mitchell's "Turning Around for Me." It won't always be like this. He will perfect that concerning me, but sooner or later, it'll turn in my favor. It's turning around for me. That stretch, man, 2013, 2014, if you heard me sing, you probably heard me sing that song, either in its entirety or the vamp, because I had reached a point in my life where I was begging God for the turnaround. That song still carries a special place in my heart. I am so grateful to Vashawn Mitchell for sharing that gift with the world. If you have not seen it, heard it, I'm going to share a link to it on the site. You need to go hear it. If you peruse through my YouTube videos, you will find a video or three of me singing it. But it had to be a part of this project because it really does represent my tipping point. The song represents my commitment to believing that it was going to get better. And I have talked a lot about how, regardless of the tension, right, between my faith and those negative feelings, it was my faith that kept me through all of it. And it is crazy not to recognize that. And for those people out there that are going through challenges, difficulty, trauma, if your faith is not the same as my faith, find faith in something that will not change. Something that will remain rooted. Something that will establish a foundation for you, that will allow you to believe, no matter how bad it looks, that it can and it will get better. Because without that, the tipping point never comes. Your change never comes. And without this song, without what this song represents, I don't know that I am sitting here. I definitely know that I am not talking to you. And I don't know that the purpose I am now pursuing ever gets fulfilled. And so my encouragement in this song, in the song being on the project, in the song being a part of my writing in the book, the essence of what it stands for, the message I share with you, it will not always be like this. I know that the hard times are hard, that the low moments are low, and that the dark moments are dark. But it won't always be like this. He will, it will, you will. perfect that. What is that? Whatever situation in need of perfection, if you give it, I believe, to God, He will perfect that concerning you. As He has perfected those imperfect things in me concerning me. Sooner or later, all of those negative things, all of those traumatic experiences, all of those hard times, all of those negative feelings, all of those things that felt like they were going to take you out, they will turn in your favor. The pain to purpose is taking the story, owning it, taking the trauma, owning it, taking the hurt, owning it, and making it work for you instead of you working to suppress it. Sooner or later, if you allow it, it'll turn in your favor. I believe things are turning around for you as they have turned around for me. Trauma survivors, trauma supporters, to all of you, my TS Strong community, thank you so much for investing the time to watch or to listen to another episode of the Controversy Podcast. I, your host, Brandon T. Bailey, am so grateful for your time, your attention, your energy, and your effort to support this very, very, very important mission. Listen, as we endeavor to make our show better and continue to offer incredible resources to all of you, the TS Strong community, I do have an ask. I'm going to ask that you subscribe, rate, and review the show. Let us know what you think. Let us know what we could do better. Let us know what kind of resources we can continue to offer to all of you, the TS community, so that we can all together learn to live TS Strong. All right, finally, I want to personally invite you to the Controversy Project Facebook group, A Safe Place. It is a free and exclusive community where trauma survivors and trauma supporters have gathered together to share testimonies, to share resources, and to share support and love for each other, as all of us are endeavoring to learn to live TS Strong. This is just another one of the many multimedia platforms that we have chosen to use in order to fulfill this very, very important mission. And I want to invite you to be a part of it and obviously welcome you to it in advance. Listen, in closing, until next time, I want to remind each and every one of you how important it is for you to confront your pain, how important it is for you to live your purpose, and how important it is for you to invest in your project. Till next time, peace.